in the past and thought of the kids before telling her for the last time that she needed to leave. Or I really would call the police and reported for trespassing, but she continued to cry right on the doorstep. I was left with no other option and was forced to call the police, who arrived 15 minutes later and took her away. But even then she put up a fight and had to be taken away, kicking and screaming. My aunt had just sat through the whole thing silently with her head in her hands, and I can't even blame her because this is just heartbreaking. Not because my sister can never get her kids back, but because my aunt literally raised us both. And now she has to watch one of the kids she raised completely fall apart right in front of her eyes. And she couldn't even do anything to fix things. She just had to watch it all happen and let it go. It can't have been easy for her to watch my sister in that state. Neither had it been easy for me. And it's just really disturbing because I know she's suffering a lot right now, but she has nobody else to blame for this situation except herself. I don't know why exactly she disappeared, but no matter what the reason was, I highly doubt it makes what she did any more forgivable. I just want her to go back to wherever she was, not out of hatred, but simply because I don't have the emotional strength to watch my sister break down over and over again and cause someone else this amount of pain. I just can't do this again and again. I might even have to start looking at lawyers to get a restraining order against her. I don't know how effective that will be, or even if I qualify for it, because this is technically not a dangerous situation that we're in, but we never know. Things can go south really quickly. More so with my sister, especially since she's clearly very emotionally volatile right now. I just don't know what to do or what to think, and I'm absolutely numb right now. Nothing feels the same anymore after my sister's return, and I highly doubt I can go back to living my usual life again. In a way, it's ironic that she first disrupted all our lives by disappearing, and she's currently doing the same thing with her reappearance. It puts into perspective how selfish she actually is, and how she can never be bothered to think about literally anyone except herself. I hope she and her boyfriend have been able to make something of themselves in the last 6 years, because I just want them to go away now. I don't even care where she'd been, or where she went. I just want her gone, and for good, because nothing is going to come out of her return. Update 3. My sister just sent me another email 5 hours ago, and I came back home immediately after reading it, and saw my aunt to do the same after forwarding it to her. 2 days have passed since the last update, and today we finally received an explanation as to where my sister had been for the last 6 years of our lives. So 7 years ago, a month or so before she disappeared, her boyfriend's uncle offered him a job for free at his hotel in Miami, but he'd made it very clear that he couldn't bring his kids along. My sister was still welcome, if she could make herself useful in some way. So she went with him, and the two of them started working there for a much higher salary than what they made here. She didn't tell us anything about it because she believed that if my aunt found out about what she was earning, then she might ask her to repay all the money that my aunt had helped her out with, an out of fear and greed. She kept her mouth shut about where she'd gone over time. They'd worked hard and been promoted, and they'd finally saved enough to start a business of their own in Miami, which is what they were about to do. But first, they decided to take a trip back here so that they could finally take their kids back with them. They hadn't had the foresight to think that we might have actually given their kids up for adoption, because my sister was sure that my aunt and I loved them too much to let them go anywhere else. So she'd been counting on us to look after them in her absence, and raise them well so she could take over whenever she'd be able to, which happens to be now. But there was just one hitch in her brilliant plan, and that was that. She hadn't even told us anything about this, and had disappeared without a word. She'd probably forgotten that my aunt and I were real human beings with minds of our own, and not just robots who would follow whatever she'd programmed us to without questioning it at all. So now she was begging us through her email to at least let us see her kids before she went back and keep in touch with the adoptive parents, so she could have some degree of contact with her kids. I don't fully understand what the intention of this email was. Probably to make us realize that she'd been working through these years, and that would suddenly make us have a change of heart or something. But if that really was the intended impact of her story, then my sister has failed miserably. She didn't talk to us for 6 whole years because she was too afraid that my aunt would ask us to pay her back, which is just so insane. First of all, my aunt is the last person to ask the US for money, and even if she had, my sister should have had the gratitude to do it without question because she owed it to our aunt. Also on top of that, I don't think any parent who's ready to abandon their kids for 6 years without even looking back to check on them for the sake of a couple of extra bucks deserves any sympathy. Least of all, not someone as materialistic and shallow as my sister. Whatever she'd done was unforgivable, and her story just made it worse. But at least now we don't have to feel sorry for her anymore. She's just a despicable excuse of a human being. And my aunt and I decided to block her without even a response, because that's just what she deserves. We've also told Adam and Martha about the email, and if they are willing to opt for legal action against her to prevent her from harassing us any further, then we'll definitely be joining them. My aunt and I are disappointed that she turned out this way, but we're not surprised in the slightest. We're surprised that she and her boyfriend were able to make something of themselves, but that's about it. If they try anything funny with us after this, then they'll be looking at a restraining order. But I don't suppose she'll risk that since she has her new business to look forward to. Now, I wish she would just go back and never return. I don't want to see her ever again.